It's time once again for Western New York Athletics High School Football Weekly, hosted by Frank Wolf with Dick Gallagher from WGRZ High School Sports. Today's show is brought to you by Scroy Financial of West Seneca, the Paul Wolf Agency in Kenmore, CSA Prep Star, the North End Bar and Grill, Cipriano Realtors, BuffaloSportsPage.com, and by Southtown Trophies in Orchard Park, New York, a proud sponsor of the Buffalo Sports Page Athlete of the Week Award, announced each week on BuffaloSportsPage.com.
Hi, I'm Pat Scroy, president of Scroy Financial. We've been helping people realize their financial dreams for nearly 50 years. Your goals may include building wealth for a comfortable retirement, protection from the burdens of long-term care, or leaving a legacy to your children and grandchildren. With all these diverse goals, retirement planning should not be a one-size-fits-all process, and at Scroy Financial it's not. Whether you are just getting started or nearing retirement, give us a call. Plan, protect, invest. It's your life. Scroy Financial can help.
There are good hands and great hands. Hi, I'm Paul Wolf. We all know that good hands usually turn into losers. When it comes to all your insurance needs, our hands are unbeatable.
Call the Wolf at 835-9653 today.
Hello, welcome to WNY Athletics High School Football Weekly. I am Frank Wolf, joined by Dick Gallagher from WGRZ High School Sports. Dick, it's a pleasure to have you in studio once again. How's everything?
Not bad. Week 9 is over. Week 10. A couple of days. It's amazing.
Yes. We've been sitting here for 9 weeks, and we've had nothing but great shows working together. I've enjoyed every minute of it. We got to thank our sponsors, Scroy Financial, Cipriano Realtors, Sam Watts, Special Teams Academy, and, of course, Prep Star. So, without further ado, we have to recap just a few of the games. There were 5 teams there were 10 teams that advanced to New Era Field this past weekend. The final team was Cleve Hill on Saturday after beating Randolph-Roosburg. I expected a closer game, and it was only 6-0 for a while on Saturday, but Randolph just tailed off a little bit there at the end. I don't know if it was the conditions or what, or just the inability to bring down Aaron Waller and the other stud running back. But what did you take? Were you expecting a blowout?
Well, Kevin Hine, I believe, he was the starting quarterback, and he was outstanding. He didn't play the week before. He was injured and he wasn't going to be able to play. They got their 2 running backs back in Marsh and Minter. But when you take a look at what Cleveland Hill delivers to you every play, being physical and so fast, the score didn't surprise me.
I know Bernard was a little banged up too. He's been, one of the top linemen in Western New York this year. If he's not going 100%, it could be a long day for their defense.
Well, yeah, and that's hard, particularly when you have a player like Andrew and the size of him and the impact that he has in the leader of the team. But the bottom line is, when you take a look at it, Cleveland Hill going into the season was one of the favorites, and now when you take a look at how they played, they just got better and better, and particularly when they switched Aaron Whaler from quarterback back to running back and putting Javon Thomas in at the quarterback. That gives them a whole different dimension, particularly with Thomas's athleticism, and it was demonstrated against the Cardinals.
Yeah. And they will be meeting up with the Southwestern Trojans for, I believe, the 3rd time in as many years at New Era Field. I was down at Southwestern in Jamestown Friday night with Dennis Sarro from the Cali Cup. We called that game. It was Wilson and Southwestern, and honestly, a game for the ages. It came down again to Wilson rolling the dice and going for 2, and they didn't make it. But I tell you, Dick, it was really one of the best games I've seen in a long time. Wilson was trailing by as many as, I believe, 11 or 13 points at one time late in the game. And they stormed back, and it was just, they left it all out there, both teams. And what I was most impressed by with both teams, there is history there. They've gotten to know each other quite a bit, having to play at this game, seemingly at the end of the year, each year in this particular game. There's no bad blood there. You know what I mean? Nobody took liberties at each other. Nobody, there might have been one personal foul called all game. but it didn't have anything to do with the player, with two players. It had to do with maybe a player shouting back at the official. But these kids had a lot of respect for each other, and honestly, if I could see football that played like that every day, that's the way football's supposed to be played. You go in hard, you give it everything you have, and then you shake hands like men after, and that's what those two teams did.
Well, when you look at Steven Frericks, and he should be one of the top 10 contenders to be in the Conley Cup finalist selection, I think. But when you take a look at his stats, and when you look at the beginning of the season, they only had 21 players. And then when you look at Westmoreland and what he does, everyone goes both ways. They play their hearts out. Bill Atlas has been there for years. He's a good coach. And Bill should be considered for one of the Coach of the Year awards, mainly just the way he brought that team along.
Yeah, they have a strong bond there, no question. And unfortunately, Frericks and Marcel Wilson have to move on. But, they're a very young team, so I expect to see Wilson competing next year and probably in the same game. Who knows if Southwestern will be able to get back to it. They're going to lose the top player maybe in Western New York, and not just Cole Snyder, but also Alex Carter, an outstanding receiver. Both those guys are done at the end of the year. But Wilson, I expect to take a big jump next year and possibly even reach New Era Field. We'll have to see.
Southwestern's got some good underclassmen, and they're not going to be the talent that Alex Carter and Cole Snyder is, but they have some good ones, and particularly I think it's freshman or sophomore, Sishan Viner,
yes,
and it's the brother of Faison
Viner,
and he's been the main ball carrier for the last couple of games for the Trojans. It'll be interesting to see what Jehu does for the championship.
If he goes to more of a running attack away from a passing attack. But I was impressed with Southwestern too, and I think they're going to give Cleve Hill a pretty good game this year. It all comes down to seeing what the weather's going to be this week. Is it going to be rainy? Is it going to be windy like you expect this late in October, early November at New Era Field in Orchard Park? We'll have to wait and see. But it's definitely going to be a great game, and that Southwestern has been waiting 12 months for this opportunity.
Well, they played them 3 times, or two times in the sectional championship. Last year they played during the regular season when Southwestern beat them by 26 points. If you really look at it, to me, if it's bad weather or if it's raining, etc., that's going to benefit Cleveland Hill because that's going to hurt Cole Snyder and Alex Card in the offense. But when you get to this championship game, you forget about the weather, you do what you got to do, and then when you take Cole and what he's done in his career, starting in modified and working way up, he knows how to play the game, he understands the game, and even if it's raining, he will say, so what?
He's a football player for sure. I was really also impressed with Drew Westmoreland at Wilson. I got to say, he is a great football player, and I expect even better things out of him next year.
He had double-digit tackles last week.
Yeah, he was definitely probably one of the best athletes on the field that day.
Yeah.
And that's saying a lot considering the company he was in. Class B, let's hop over there and talk a little bit about Pioneer. They rolled over Fredonia, I believe it was 28-0.
Right.
Yeah, Mike Riggerman again doing what he does best. Fredonia didn't really seem to have an answer for him. But were you surprised by the Pioneer defense being able to shut down Joel Cologne and company?
No. When you take a look at Pioneer's team, it's not about just Riggerman. They've got an outstanding defensive line, particularly with Trevor Smith, only in 6'4", I think 250 junior, Denton Tilley. Then if you take a look at their kicker, Carson, I believe it's Carson Hurlbut. He made 49 of 50 PATs during the season. They have the whole package, special teams, the offense and the defense. And I think that you have to favor the Panthers going into the game with Cheektowaga. And to me, the interesting stat is, first game, Pioneer 33, I think it was the 14. If you take a look at 33 points, Cheektowaga gave up in one game. The rest of the 8 games they played, they only gave up 21 points our total of 54.
Yeah.
So one is Tavon Roach, has got to be considered one of the linebackers in Western New York. He's got about 120 tackles. He's just awesome. And then the way Mike Fata, this is the 5th consecutive championship that they'll be playing in. And Scott Zipp and Mike and the coaching staff do a wonderful job. Their JV program is outstanding. So I think that you have to give the edge to Pioneer going in because of their defense, also because of Riegerman. And I think right now he stands as one of the top, if not the top, contender for Player of the Year, mainly because no one's been able to stop him. And he is a class act. He just comes to play. He doesn't speak about anything. And when you take a look at what he's done during the season, he's over 2,000 yards rushing. He's got 29 or 30 touchdowns. He's got over 330, 40 tackles in his career. He's everywhere, but they have other parts, particularly at quarterback with Neil Rinker.
Yeah, he's thrown well for when they've asked him to throw. He's made the throws that they've asked him to. So pretty good quarterback there as well. I love their fullback. But it's a rematch, so, it's Coach Dupree matching up against Fata one more time. I am hearing that, Tamel Bass could miss the game with lower back injury. It could be done for the season. That's not good news for Cheektowaga because in that first game, Tamel had a touchdown, a couple of nice grabs, and he's obviously Keyshawn Beal's number one weapon. So we'll have to see how that plays out and if anyone can step up for Cheektowaga. But this is the playoffs. This is, if you don't win at New Era Field, your season's done. So, Fata has a way of getting players to play up, rise to the occasion, especially in these games.
Yeah, plus Keyshawn Beal was a JV quarterback for the first 2 years. He comes in last year, he counts for over 3,000 yards running and passing. And also this year, he'll approach that. I don't know if he's going to see that. It's going to depend on them winning and getting another game. But when you have Keyshawn Beal and he doesn't have the look of a quarterback, but he just does what he needs to do, running and passing. But when it comes down to it, and if you compared Riegelman and Beal, both of them should be in the finalists for the Conley Cup.
I think you'll see that for sure. Cheektowaga got over Albion, kind of what I expected. I like that Albion team. I think they're a very good team. I just think what hurts them is that depth. And I think they're almost the same team as Wilson. They've got good players in key positions. It's just once you get into that fourth quarter, you lose a little. You can't go. All those kids play both sides of the offense, defense, special teams. So they just get tired out. And hopefully, what the coach in Albion did, Krenning, hopefully he gets more kids to come out in the next couple of years and really build that program up because Albion is one of the best football communities in Western New York. They just didn't have much for Cheektowaga last week.
Right, but I think we look at it, last year Eugene Harrison was the best player on Albion as a junior. This year he started out in the first few games. And I don't know if there was an injury or whatever, but his stats nowhere match what it was last year. And he was a five-star stud on both sides of the ball. That's got to hurt them big time.
Yeah, he must have had something going on. I saw him against Lackawanna, and he was for sure the best football player on the field in week 2. Class A. We're going to have a rematch between West Seneca West and West Seneca East. Hopefully everybody in West Seneca comes out to New Era Field Thursday night for that rematch. West Seneca East with a big win over Grand Island, and West Seneca West, they were punching them out last week against Starpoint. I thought West Seneca West was going to win that game, maybe by 10 to 14 points. But that came down to the wire, Dick, and that was a great test for West Seneca West, particularly Spire and Justin Johnson and all those kids to finally really see some adversity on the football field, something they hadn't seen in 12 months. The last team to really put any pressure on them was South Park, in my view anyways, because they seemed to roll to the state finals last year.
And when you look at it, Spire maybe had 600, 700 yards, or 600 yards in all the other previous games. He had 305, 4 touchdowns that game. Robertson had, I think, 35 yards passing. I have no idea how that changed because he was throwing for 250, 300 yards before that, and a few touchdowns. So again, there's a question as far as what is his health like, and then also in the paper I read where they took him out of the game on toward the latter part of that game. Star Point, Al Cavanero, they've done a fantastic job. They got dominated by by West Seneca East.
Yeah.
They came back then and then beat South Park by a point and then played them to a point where they could have very easily won that game. And if you look at Chase, he had a year that very few quarterbacks have had. He had 36 touchdowns, which ties Joe Licata's record touchdowns in the season. He also is the third player in West New York high school football history that passed for over 3,000 yards. Only the two before him, Jake Sisson had 3,150, and I think Chad Kelly had 3,050. So when you look at it, and you take, Aaron, who's a tremendous athlete, a good baseball player, also Star Point's had one of the best years of any team.
What I like about Chase is his resiliency. I mean, that's a kid who was knocked out at the end of the season last year. For him to put that behind him and go out and have the season he had, that's a kid that cannot hold his head down. He should keep his head held high. And they had a tremendous season, Star Point. All those kids, Max Bowden and Spina and Mott, great athletes, good football players. And we haven't seen the last of Star Point, especially. I mean, they have a great coaching staff. Al does a phenomenal job. Star Point will be back next year.
Then they had Bowden and also Carlson. And
Carlson,
those four receivers were probably the four best on one team.
Yes.
And then if you take a look at Bowden, 6'3", 200, Boston College, looking at him, his stats are nowhere near Spina and Carlson, but yet they had a wonderful season.
Absolutely. So now talking about weather, if weather plays a factor in this game, Dick, I have a hard time thinking that it will hurt West Seneca East as much as it would hurt West Seneca West. West Seneca East reminds me of an old school type football team, ground and pound. They remind me of like the '85 Bears. Very tough defensively. They're not flashy on offense. It's Dolak. It's Dolak or bust. For the Bears, it was Walter Payton. Jim McMahon did what he had to do to make plays, but this was the Bears' '85 defense won them that Super Bowl, and to me, the West Seneca East Trojans remind me a lot of that '85 Bears team, and the fact that they are so good defensively, and then they have Dolak on offense, and West Seneca East is going to go as far as Dolak takes them. That's my opinion. I know other people feel the same way. If weather's a factor, does it benefit East or does it benefit West, or is this? You tell me.
I think that when you take a look at those two teams, their line has been the difference.
Yeah.
And their line, smash mouth football at its best, and that's what's going to happen. And then what comes out of that, who knows? But Dylan McNulty is an outstanding defensive end for the Trojans. Not the Trojans. Yeah, West Seneca East. And Dylan. And then you take a look at Dolak, and he's done everything except sell popcorn at halftime. But then when you take West has won 24 straight games. They have a number of players that can be impact players, particularly two that are really under the radar screen, Kyle Hadish and Brian Ball. They are outstanding. They got so many repetitions playing for that state championship last year.
Sure.
So I think a key, particularly for West, is when they look at two defensive people, Mike Linsky and Liam Shore. They're only juniors. I think it was Mike made, or Liam, I forget, first team West New York. So when you get out of that game, if the weather's somewhat decent, I don't care if it's drizzling, they'll set a record for attendance in a game because all of West Seneca will be there. And forget about the rivalry one that West Seneca West won a couple of games ago. that's out the window.
Yep.
That's not going to mean anything. The rest of their lives, they're going to remember this game, and also the bragging rights will be with the winner.
Absolutely. I'd hate to see who they're going to play the following week, the winner of this game. My goodness. If it's Irondequoit or Victor.
Well, either one of those.
That's far away. Hopefully none of those guys are even thinking about that yet, but you and I can talk about it, and my goodness.
Last year, for the first time ever, we won all 5 games with Rochester. This year, I don't expect that, even though we're going to have 5 very competitive teams coming out. And one of the things with Irondequoit, they got well-balanced team. So even if they win, whoever wins, they're going to have to take their game to another level to continue the ride to a state championship.
No question about it. Before we get into AA, let's go to D, where CSP and Maple Grove will tie it on for the 3rd time this year. CSP had their way with them week 2, I believe it was. And it was a blowout, so to speak. Game the second time they met up didn't go the same way for CSP, although they built a 25-0 lead at halftime, only to hang on 25-20 in that one. And now they're going to meet up for the 3rd time. And I got to believe Coach Hanf is going to have his guys ready to go, a completely different game plan. You had mentioned a couple times already that he's made the switch at quarterback and putting Carson Chris back there, which seems to have really put that offense into high gear, so to speak. Not that Easton Tanner can't get the job done, but now he's got Easton Tanner running, catching, and doing everything else that he's been doing so good at. He's been doing so well at for the last couple of years on that staff. He's got a lot of experience. A lot of those Maple Grove kids, they're always at New Era Field. This is a first for CSP. And we always talk about what a great job Ty Harper has done at CSP. Here's a guy who's got 3 different schools that are all rivalries. Once football season's over, they go back to school, and now it's basketball season, and they're at each other's throats again. But for 4 or 5 months, Ty Harper is able to get them to forget about where they come from and just worry about coming together on the field for a couple hours each day. He's done a phenomenal job. I don't know if CSP can beat them 3 times in the same year. If you look at the stats, they suggest they will. But, come Friday, 2:30, Maple Grove, they've got all the momentum. All the pressure's on CSP, if you ask me.
This is the 8th consecutive sectional championship that Maple Grove is playing. And they've just had a tremendous run of success, particularly under Kirk Fisher and now under Hanf. But if you take a look at Maple Grove, they've got 2 players that are off the chart, Easton Hanner and Carson Chris. How many yards does Tanner have? Passing, catching, running, over 1,800. How many yards does Chris have? Over 1,500. Tanner's got 20 touchdowns, 15 touchdowns, Chris. The bottom line, CSP better come to play because those guys have been there before. They've got the experience. Justin is a very good coach. He made some adjustments. And it's hard to beat a team twice, never mind once.
Yeah.
Never mind twice or 3 times.
Not too many people gave Maple Grove a shot last year when they met up with Franklinville-Ellicottville, considering the year that the Titans had and the quarterback they had coming in. But Maple Grove, they came out and won that game, surprised a lot of people, but in all reality it shouldn't have, knowing that the kind of coach Kurt Fisher is and the way he gets his guys ready to play.
They won in the first quarter, smash mouth football, they were physical, they controlled the game throughout the whole 48 minutes.
And we'll have to see if CSP can survive that, because again, Maple Grove's going to come out in the same fashion and punch you in the mouth. Derek Eklund's a heck of a football player, one of the best in Western New York, could be the MVP in all of Class D. We'll see what kind of day he has.
And then if you take a look at it, Garrett Hinsdale, only junior quarterback, he's got good stats. And then if you take a look at the line, Hovey, and I think there might be brothers, but Mitch is one of them. And so when you take a look at how dominant CSP is, this game is going to be fun to watch just mainly because of the stories, the scenarios that could play out, and the fact that they've already played each other twice. And it'll be interesting to see which coach makes the most significant change.
We'll have to see. So there'll be the Wolf Pack and the Red Dragons. That's Friday, 2:30 p.m. The last game that we're going to talk about is in the Class AA Section 6 Championship. Lancaster and Bennett. It's a rematch from a few weeks ago. Bennett beat Lancaster for the first time, the first Section 6 team to beat them in, I believe, 3 years. That coaching staff, led by Eric Rupp, they're 30-3 right now. But Bennett has done so well in Section 6 under Coach Steve McDuffie, whether they were down in C, B, A, now in AA. They're going to the stadium again for the 4th time in 4 different classes. That says all you need to know about that coaching staff, and they got Bob O'Connor on there as well. Now, and probably maybe the fastest running back in all Western New York about to go play a game on turf. Lancaster's going to have their handful, but you're going to give Eric Rupp a second shot at a team that beat him early. You know he's been preparing for this game since that game ended.
Well, you take a look at the moves that Eric Rupp has made and the coaching staff for the last couple of weeks, they've been key to them succeeding. And so if you take a look at the fact that he's only been there a few years and the success that he's had, those kids come to play, they're physical. The 2 linebackers are only juniors. They're 2 of the best in Western New York with Connor Mahoney and Matt Marshner. And the quarterback was very iffy play last week. And, Jason probably had one of his worst games. He has to play a lot better if they're even going to be able to compete with Bennett. And Bennett's got to stay away from the penalties.
Yeah.
The game, interesting, with Lancaster and North last week, they had about 18 penalties. There was no rhythm to the game, and then it cost them, and it particularly cost North at a couple of times, huge penalties at a time where they were going in for a touchdown or whatever. So I think both teams have to play their best, avoid turnovers, avoid penalties, and play smash mouth football. But when you take the speed and athleticism and talent of Bennett, I think you have to favor them going into the game.
I would agree. Well, we've said this quite a few times. The only team that's going to beat Bennett is Bennett. So who knows if that rings true, but I would hate to see Eric Rupp have another shot at a team that beat him earlier in the year. So I would imagine Bennett's going to have their hands full. Interesting, Sean Davis left that game early, and he had just returned a kickoff for 80 yards, I believe, and then he had gone out shortly after that trying to make a tackle. But he's been playing well since his return, and he's going to be on the field on Thursday night. Yeah. For Bennett, last week at Orchard Park, we had talked about can they hold it together. It was Orchard Park that came unglued, and Bennett stayed, on the right side of the. I mean, they didn't take any stupid penalties, and not too many undisciplined players. And you can have a holding call here and there and things of that nature, but Bennett, they kept it together, and Orchard Park did not. I didn't expect that.
I've never seen Quakers with 4 personnel fouls and plus an ejection. I've never seen that in all the years I've been involved. So something happened to get them going the wrong way. If you take a look at it, though, Bennett also came out with 4 and 5 wide receiver sets that they were not prepared for. Lancaster's defense, coached by Dave Manziel, is outstanding, makes the necessary adjustments. So I think whoever comes out within the first 5-10 minutes of that game, you're going to see who might just win it, mainly because they've got to be focused. They can't, take bad penalties. They can't, have the turnovers. But if you just take a look at the pure athletic talent on both teams, you give the edge to Bennett. When you take a look at what Eric Rupp and the coaching staff have done, 30-3 in 3 years playing quality teams, making it to the state championship, that game's a toss-up.
Do you see Gino Falcinetti starting for Lancaster? Or do you think they stick with Manziel, or they keep on mixing it up, or do you see Gino getting the start?
I would still think that they might start Jason, but they weren't afraid to take him out last week, put Gino in. What I couldn't understand from North's standpoint in defense is here you get the ball on the 5-yard line. Why wasn't Ryan over there shadowing Gino rather than covering a wide receiver and taking him out of the play? So he, two plays, he's in for another touchdown. He does it again. So they've got some good backups. They've got 50 on their roster.
Absolutely.
They've got some outstanding team. So, and the one thing with Eric and Dave and the coaching staff, they're not going to wait for changes. They'll make it happen.
Yeah, I agree. That'll wrap us up for Section 6, but to touch on Monsignor Martin, last week Canisius got by O'Hara. Tough news for the Hawks as C.J. Masters went down with a broken collarbone. So that could change the course of the way how the playoffs are going to play out, specifically in that lower division where you have O'Hara with the bye week. It gives his little brother Aiden time to get through some rhythms and get through some practices and get the snaps and get more comfortable with his receivers. But now, Timon and St. Mary, whoever wins that game, they got to be thinking, well, hey, one of the top players on O'Hara is gone. Maybe we have a shot at this game. Well, it's going to play into the psyche a little bit.
They have a shot primarily because of Mitchell Field. He's one of the better quarterbacks there. He's been on the radar screen for 2 years because of the losing streak of the Tigers. But he's an outstanding player, an outstanding leader. They should beat St. Mary's. Then if they go against Cardinal O'Hara, they've got a shot at upsetting them. But I don't know how much of an upset it would be. But O'Hara's got 5 or 6 really outstanding players.
Yeah, Brandon Broadnex had a really good game against O'Hara considering, but he's good. Justin Hempel really opened up my eyes. He's a fantastic football player. We know him how good he is in basketball, but he's a good football player.
Yeah.
They did a really good job against Canisius in the first half. It was close, but then when the injury came in, then it was pretty much over from that point. But really proud of the way O'Hara battled against Canisius in that game. But the depth issue caught up with them, and especially with that huge injury, that wasn't that didn't help matters at all. St. Joe's won. St. Francis beat Timon. We know that Canisius and O'Hara have the bye weeks. So Franny's and Joe's will play Saturday, a rematch. You got maybe Jake Ritz plays all 4 quarters and changes the outcome. But I think St. Joe's has gotten much better since beating St. Francis, and I don't know if St. Francis has gotten any better across the field. I mean, their offense is pretty good. They're humming. The defense isn't any better than it was. From my vantage point, they didn't impress me against Canisius. And so, I mean, we'll have to see. I think St. Joe's is taking a step up where St. Francis has stayed the same, but you may feel differently.
No, I think the St. Joe should be the favorite going in.
Okay.
Primarily, Jimmy Scott has come out of under the radar screen. Now everyone is saying he's only a freshman. He's an outstanding athlete, basketball player. He had 147 yards, a couple of touchdowns last week. Then David Morgan is also an outstanding running back. And then Micah Brown is lifting up his game. I think he threw for a few touchdowns, 4 touchdowns the week before to Sam Klein. Then if you take the line of Doty and Gambino and McDonald, no one has a line that matches up with them. And just as they did in beating St. Francis a few weeks ago.
The North End Bar and Grill in Kenmore is the perfect place for friends to get together, enjoy a great menu that includes all the local favorites like wings, roast beef on weck, and the best Friday fish fry in town. Serving daily specials like spaghetti and meatballs, flavorful hamburgers and barbecued ribs, and enjoy 12 beers on tap, including IPAs. The North End Bar and Grill, located at 2692 Elmwood Avenue near Girard. To order takeout or to reserve a table, give us a call at 877-9000 or visit us on the web at northendbarandgrill.com.
Today's show is brought to you by Scroy Financial of West Seneca, the Paul Wolf Agency in Kenmore, CSA Prep Star, the North End Bar and Grill, Cipriano Realtors, BuffaloSportsPage.com, and by Southtown Trophies in Orchard Park, New York, a proud sponsor of the Buffalo Sports Page Athlete of the Week Award, announced each week on BuffaloSportsPage.com.